Friends, on a glorious day, with joyful hearts, together let us worship God. We begin with prayer. Gracious God, blessed yet again are we to be in this glorious space, this sacred space, to be lifted up by music and word, being in the presence of those whom we love. We thank you for this day and humbly ask that our hearts and minds will be open in the hour that is before us, that we'll put our to-do lists aside and all the things that lie before us, and we simply, as human sponges, will soak up the love and spirit and wisdom of this time. For it is in your name we gather and pray. Amen.
There's something in the way you tell a joke makes me want to kiss you. There's something in my life, I'm sure it's obvious that I cannot resist you. And something about that old leather jacket and your hands in its pockets that blinds my reservations, leaves the anxious waiting just to listen more. My comedy whisper a joke to me. My affinity, I'll always laugh too high, just what I need. How funny would the punchline be if you actually liked me? There's something in the way you lean against a wall, gesture me towards you, that makes me search for words to frame the perfect way to say that I adore you. And in all my fantasies, I'm sure I'm forward, and you know just how bad I want. My laugh wouldn't just say that I think you're funny, but I like you too. My comedy whisper a joke to me. My affinity, I'll always laugh too high, just what I mean. And how funny would the punchline be if you actually liked me? How many hours, how many days will I waste holding back smiles, blushing denials on my face? How many days, how many days, how many days will I waste till my comedy whispers a joke to me? My affinity, I'll always laugh too high, just what I mean. And how funny would the punchline be if you actually liked me?
Say good morning to those whom you're seated near. Thank you all for joining us for this service of worship. We especially welcome those of you who are guests or visitors or here for the first time. Cups, we don't have any new ones, but if you like the one you're drinking out of, just take it. Want to say thanks to Mr. Cox, Mr. Sternberg, Mr. Rashid, and Eva B. Ross for joining us. I think second applause is in order because Eva just graduated from UCLA last year. And after today's service, she'll probably be wanting to begin her doctoral work in theology. Or not. Or not. Or not. That's enough announcements. We are so glad you're here. This is a book called Sabbath by Wayne Muller. Every single summer, I offer at least one sermon that's based on something fabulous that I've read in this book. I think Daryl Bloom was the person who gave this to me originally. And this past week, I was reading on Sabbath, and I thought about how I might take Muller's words and shape them in a way that would speak to all of you. And I realized that exactly as he put them on the paper is probably how they need to be heard. I think this will speak to a number of us. There's astounding wisdom in the traditional Jewish Sabbath that it begins precisely at sundown, whether that comes at a wintry 4:30 or late on a summer evening. Sabbath is not dependent on our readiness to stop. We don't stop when we're finished. We do not stop when we complete our phone calls, finish our project, get through this stack of messages, or get out this report that's due tomorrow. We stop because it's time to stop. Sabbath requires surrender. If we only stop when we're finished with all our work, we'll never stop because our work is never completely done. With every accomplishment, there arises a new responsibility. Every swept floor invites new sweeping. Every child bathed invites another bathing. When all life moves in such cycles, what is ever finished? The sun goes round, the moon goes round, the tides and seasons go round, people are born and die, and when are we finished? If we refuse rest until we are finished, we'll never rest until we die. Sabbath dissolves the artificial urgency of our days because it liberates us from the need to be finished. The old wise Sabbath says, stop now. As the sun touches the horizon, take the hand off the plow, put down the phone, let the pen rest on the paper, turn off the computer, leave the mop in the bucket and the car in the drive. There's no room for negotiation, no time to be seduced by the urgency of our responsibilities. We stop because there are forces larger than us that take care of the universe. And while our efforts are important, necessary, and useful, they are not, nor are we, indispensable. The galaxy will somehow manage without us for this hour, for this day. And so we are invited, no, we are commanded to relax, to enjoy our relative unimportance, our humble place at a table in a very large world. The deep wisdom embedded in creation will take care of things for us for a while. Finally, when we breathe, we don't stop inhaling because we've taken in all the oxygen we'll ever need, but because we have all the oxygen we need for this breath. Then we exhale, release carbon dioxide, and make room for more oxygen. Sabbath, like the breath, allows us to imagine that we have done enough work for this day. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, Jesus said again and again and again. Let the work for today be sufficient. Amen.
I was anticipating a longer message.
Let that be our first concern.
Let's work that one down.
It's been a few years, and I can't believe we're old enough to say that it's been a few years. Well, it's just memories of memories now. Old mix CDs from Long Valley drives, and I've been wondering what to say, and I've been smiled when I sang the refrain. And I wished I could have one more drive with you. And I wonder if you feel the same. Did I fool you into thinking I don't care? Well, that's just so like me. Did I fool you into thinking that I don't care? Did you start to believe? It's been a few years, and I can't believe we're old enough to say that it's been a few years.
The scripture for this morning comes from Romans 9 through 18. Not that you know the difference. Well, you might. I might not. Tom wouldn't know. I'll sit down now. The scripture this morning, let me enlarge my text. Romans 9 through 18. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly and sisterly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Never flag in zeal. Be aglow with the Spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in your hope. Be patient in tribulation, constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be conceited. Repay no one evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends upon you, live peaceably with all.
Part of what I love about these worship experiences is that they're not set apart, but they're woven into the very fabric of life. So here we are, pursuing our spiritual lives, yet in the distance, if you look on the horizon, you can see quite a number of people out fishing. And then there's two gentlemen here rigging a sailboat, and a mom with a baby, and kids playing together. And we're here worshiping, and is symbolic, I think, of how it's supposed to be. That there is a time and a place for worship to be set apart, but for the most part, our spiritual lives are supposed to be woven into the fabric of each and every day. And that's kind of what happens here. Let's please begin with a prayer. Almighty God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight. For Lord, you are the rock of our lives, and you are our Redeemer. Amen. Two scenarios. Think through which one you believe makes the most sense. Scenario one. Young Tina has been captured by rock and roll. More than anything else in the world, Tina wants to become a rocker. And so her Spotify plays only Led Zeppelin and Patti Smith and the Rolling Stones. She dreams about getting a Fender Stratocaster. She finds a job, starts saving her money, And pretty soon she has a Strat that resembles her heroes, Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton, Bonnie Raitt. And then she starts to take lessons on that Stratocaster at the local School of Rock. They teach Tina the chords she needs to know and the riffs she'd like to learn to be able to play those rock songs that she loves. After a number of months, Tina and that Stratocaster of hers have a dream fulfilled. They're asked to be in a local rock band. That's scenario one. Now, tell me if you think scenario two sounds better or worse. Scenario two, the young guitarist Tina is captured by rock and roll more than anything else in the world. She wants to be a rocker. But she begins taking lessons with a seasoned teacher who sits her down and he says to her, Tina, before you can become a great rocker, you need to become a great musician. And so that means if you study with me, you're going to learn a little bit about classic music. You're going to learn about music theory. On top of it, you're going to hear a lot about rhythm and blues and country and jazz, for they are the very soil in which rock and roll has its roots. And then he kind of concludes his sales pitch by saying, you know, Gaga began as a classical pianist. And Eric Clapton attributes much of his success to immersing himself in the blues of Buddy Guy and others. And John and Paul and George, and who knows about Ringo, but John and Paul and George, they began up their musical careers by listening to the BBC radio play classical music. So which scenario sounds better? If your daughter was Tina, she's 14 years old, which would you encourage her to pursue? A singular focus on the musical tree, one branch called rock and roll? Or instead, would you take a broad-based approach where she learns to be a rocker by exploring all the branches of the musical tree? I thought about it a bit this week. For me, it's an easy answer. But absolutely encourage Tina to pursue breadth so that someday her music might have depth. Consider a story from another arena, a true story, again about expanding the span of our experience. Jump back a couple decades at least to Salt Lake City. I'm in my senior year at the University of Utah. In the apartment over mine lives Terrell Forland. She's the #1 female skier on the University of Utah national champion ski team. She came from Norway. She's there on scholarship. In the 72 Sapporo Olympics, she competed not just in the slalom and the giant slalom, but the downhill. And on this autumn day, as I was heading out to class, Terrell had just returned. I asked her what class she had come back from. It turns out she was taking ballet, as was every other member of both the women's and men's ski teams at the University of Utah. You see, it was at a time in history in the early and middle 70s when athletic trainers and coaches started to have a sense of the benefits of what's come to be known as cross-training. They recognized the physical and mental benefits that other disciplines beyond your own specialty bring. In the case of skiing, ballet brought increased flexibility as well as a mindset that helped skiers think about graceful carved turns executed quietly with a minimum of chatter. Ballet, an entirely different branch of athletics, if you will. Ballet, as it turns out, helps ski racers go faster. So, from music, where the wisdom of a broad foundation seems obvious, to the athletic arena, where the benefits of diverse disciplines seem clear, now to the world of faith. Wouldn't cross-training, pun completely intended, wouldn't cross-training make sense? not to focus just on one branch of the tree of faith, but instead to explore all the different branches of how people understand and experience the Spirit. Wouldn't that be wise? Yet despite what seem to be obvious benefits of that kind of approach, the spiritual quest for most of us seem to be more like Tina in scenario 1. We're content to learn only the chords and only the riffs of one branch of faith, of one way of seeing and experience of God, which radically would seem to limit the ways that we can connect with God in our spiritual experiences. So why don't we branch out? So our spiritual lives are an invigorating time of discovery and assimilation rather than just saying yes to a system that somebody else dreamed up and said, this is how it has to be. What sounds better to you? Faith is this wonderful time of discovery, or saying yes to a system and a process that someone else created. Even if you are confident, here comes the Coast Guard. Even if you're confident that Jesus, who by the way came from a different branch, right? Jesus wasn't a Christian. Even if you're confident that Jesus is the path you want to follow, and that's the place I find myself, wouldn't it be true that having the freedom to explore other ways would enrich your experience, just like a rocker adds texture to their music by knowing jazz and blues, or a ski racer learns from the graceful precision of ballet? Good, bad, or indifferent. That sort of approach that says, absolutely, we can and we need to learn from other traditions and ways people know God. That's just a part of what you'll find here at the community church. We're confident that exploring other ways doesn't dilute our faith. Instead, it enhances it. So that's why Zach leads no fewer than 3 different meditation classes each week. Not only does meditation have intrinsic value as spiritual practice, it also beautifully complements Christ, who said, find stillness, confront quiet, seek peace in your lives. Should we say no to the extraordinary practice of meditation just because medication, that was there's some cross training. We shouldn't say no to meditation just because the Hindus dreamed it up 1,500 years before Jesus ever came to this earth. Or what about these prayer flags? Each different color is a symbol. They come from another branch, the Buddhist tradition. Then, beyond the colors are words and pictures, and some of them have symbols. All represent prayers in the Buddhist tradition. And coolest of all, see how they're withering, they're wearing away, they're weathered? That's supposed to happen. It's not like this because we got these on discount. And the belief in the Buddhist faith and tradition is as these wither and wear away, those prayers go out to the universe. How do you not love these prayer flags? I love how they look. I love how they feel. The vibe they add to our service. They remind me of Christ's call that we're supposed to pray without ceasing. And have you ever thought what an ingenious way prayer flags are for someone to pray without ceasing? To put your prayers on the flag and then have it be up and present for you. Should we say no to prayer flags because they come from our Buddhist brothers and sisters in a different tradition? Will we open our minds and our hearts to countless ways that our brothers and sisters in the room experience God and Creator and Spirit? We walk in a divine garden, and each step brings a fullness of faith and life. So I began with the question, let me close with the question. Is this idea of actively embracing some of the values and teachings and rituals and symbols of other faith traditions like Judaism, which that first piece on Sabbath came from, of other traditions like Judaism and Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism, is it the height of heresy or simply common sense because we're listening to our open hearts and our minds and they're sending a signal that this feels right? Which is it? A prophet gives us some insight into answering that question. He's a prophet, usually associated with him. Prophet has an F rather than a PH. His name is Warren Buffett. As the story goes, Warren Buffett was being interviewed by Charlie Rose. Buffett offered that there's a natural progression to how good new ideas go bad over time. He called the progression the 3 I's. The first I, innovators, who see opportunities that others don't and champion new ideas that create genuine value. The second I come imitators. They follow the innovators. Imitators copy what the innovators have done. Sometimes they improve on the original idea, often they tarnish it. Finally, come the idiots, whose avarice sometimes, often undermines the very innovations that they're trying to exploit. As we go out on a limb, as a church, so to speak, by embracing with enthusiasm some of the ways of other traditions, some will see us as innovators desperately needed as Christian churches fade on the landscape like a weathered prayer flag. But I also know, and I can guarantee this, that others will see us as idiots as we travel on a tributary outside the mainstream. Here's the bottom line, whatever we do, the beauty of having as our foundation the way of Jesus means that we can dare to act boldly. You see, what makes the Christian faith and tradition so unique is that we're not loved when we get it right. We're not loved when we make the right decisions. We're not loved because we've done all the right things. We are loved as we are right here, right now. And that means that right or wrong in the decisions that we make, we are free to act boldly and to see faith not as simply accepting a system that someone has created for us, but instead as this extraordinary journey, a time of discovery. Amen.
I took the train alone today. 2 hours to Turin, awfully alone, I must say. I took the single seat in the back. I sought no company except for the stranger stares as they got on and off. On and lost. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. It doesn't take much for this silence to turn into pain. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. Just took 2 hours on getting on and off, on and lost. And it doesn't take much for me to miss you. It doesn't take much for this silence to turn into pain. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. Just took 2 hours on the train. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. No, it doesn't take much for this silence to drive me insane. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. Just every red roof, every green field, every blue seat on this empty train. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. It doesn't take much for this silence to turn into pain. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. I just took 2 hours on the train. No, and it doesn't take much for me to miss you. It doesn't take much for this silence to drive me insane. It doesn't take much for me to miss you. Just every red roof, every green field, every blue seat on this empty train.
Because we have Eva and these fine gentlemen here with us this week, which is very special, we're going to close with a final song. Is that right?
How much can I say before it's too much? How much can I say until it's just too much? Can I tell you that I dream about you? Tell you I can't live without you? Or is it just too much? How long should I pretend that I don't care if it ends? And tell me, is it cool with you if I just stopped trying to be cool? Tell me if it's fine. And does forever cross your mind, or is it just too much? How much can I say before it's too much? How much can I say until it's just too much? And if I told you poems get too long, so I turn them into little songs, would that just be too much? Would you spend a dime? 'Cause I've been spending all of my time, and maybe I've lost my mind, but I smile every time I get to tell someone you're mine. So tell me if it's fine, and does forever cross your mind, or is it just too much? 'Cause you're never enough. without you.
A slight twist of the words of the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. Faith, the spiritual life, is not something to be figured out. It's not a problem to be solved. It's an opportunity. It's an adventure to be lived. Friends, go in peace. Say yes to that adventure. And the people said, Amen.